So today's lecture topic will be Arthur Guo of Atlanta, Georgia, where I live. Hooray! The best Georgia in the world, because soon they'll both be Soviet Georgia, if you know what I mean. All right, so I'll try to learn Russian for next year's lectures, or as you guys would call it, this year's lectures. All right, now, when I do chess the 21st century, as you all know, I do it correctly. I look at games by someone who was born in the 21st century. Right, Arjun? Your only hope. I mean, good job. Okay, we'll have to do you, if I ever find some of your games, you're in trouble. Okay, now Arthur Guo, I've actually been his coach twice at the World Youth and or World Cadet. And there's not a lot of games in the databases since he's 10. He's the highest rated 10-year-old in the country, approximately 2265 plus tax. And in this year's World Youth, he scored 8, or World Cadet, he scored 8 out of 11 with 7, 2, and 2. Right, Arjun? Right. 7 wins, 2 losses, 2 draws. How many points is that? Yeah, good answer. Right. So he did okay. He tied for 4th, I believe. Now, the first game we're going to look at, actually we're not going to look at any games, we're going to look at positions from his games. Arthur is a very boring positional player, so he's one of my favorite players. However, since he's 8, 9, 10 years old, his games have a lot of sacrifices, because when you're 9 and you're a boring positional player, you still sacrifice every move. Right, Arjun? Right. Yeah, good answer. Okay, so here, black has won the exchange for a pawn, and he's tripled on the e-file, okay? And any weak player in this room, which is all of you, would trade queens, okay? Because you were taught by someone who wasn't me that you should trade when you're ahead, okay? As opposed to the correct rule, never trade, okay? And here, white's getting crushed. He's getting checkmated and pinned and horrible. And even though I didn't know Arthur Guo, and he was only 8 years old at the very oldest, he still played the move Queen D2 with very complicated threats, which his 7-year-old opponent didn't see. In fact, his opponent in this game was also an American. Generally, when it's under 8, under 10, under 12, America, okay, we do well. Then when it's under 14, 16, 18, they forgot to show up, okay? Now, it's not because we're terrible, which would be a normal reason. Like 10 years ago, that was the reason. But the reason now is our best players don't show up. They're like, yeah, I'm too good for that tournament. So then instead we get Rufus and Doofus, and then we're getting 50%. The younger kids, they show up. The older kids are like, yeah, I don't want to show up. I'm too good. So we have people like Caden the Truth Troph, and Jeffrey Xiong, and Sam Sevian, and none of those, and Ru Feng Li, and none of those players played in the World Youth this year. On the other hand, Jeffrey Xiong played in the World Junior, which is under 21, and at the age of 15, he won clear first. So he's the World Junior champion. If you read Chess Life, which would insinuate you know how to read, so I mean, right, Arjun? You know how to read, right? Yeah. Okay. You like the pictures in Chess Life? Yeah. Okay, the diagrams? Right. So if you read Chess Life, this month's issue talks about Jeffrey Xiong winning the World Junior because he won it about 6 months ago. That's Chess Life gets to it several months later when they think about it. And so our players who could win the under 18, under 16, under 14, they don't play in the tournament. So the only sections we can win are the under 12, under 10, and under 8. Now in the under 12 this year, we won. Hooray! And I actually lectured about Nikhil Kumar, I think it was last week, okay? Or as you people know, several weeks from now. And in the girls under 10, we just put the video up today, Rochelle Wu. Although for some reason Ben Simon put World Under 10 champion, they wrote under 12 everywhere. Okay, not too bright, Ben Simon. Okay, he's not even here. That's how not bright he is. Okay, now in this position, black has the obvious threat, which Arjun will explain. I gave you so much time, Arjun. Come on. Rook takes F2, winning the queen. Now, there's not a lot of good defenses to that, but probably something like King G1 would last an extra move. Then I would play Queen E1 check and do it again. Okay, but instead, white played for counterplay, although I don't really see a good move here. and he played f6, totally destroying black's position. Black's king side is ruined, so he resigned. Next game. No, I'm just kidding. Right, Arjun? Right. Okay, instead, black continued his 8-year-old threat. What's that? Someone? Arjun again. How old are you, Arjun? See, that's why he knew the answer. Okay. Rook takes f2 check and rook e2. Now the truth hurts. But you give a spite check. Unlike you give a sprite check. Because I saw, yeah, there you go. Yeah, nice try. Trying to hide that from me. Okay, and I thought OJ did it, but he's right over there. So yeah. Okay, exactly. And then after every legal move, and he played one of them, then White's like, all right, I give up. Well, every legal move won, but he had to let him make one. Then he resigned. So that's typical in a junior tournament. You see some relatively simple tactics ending the game. But more importantly, Arthur showed wisdom beyond his years by playing the move Queen D2. Because little kids are taught to trade, and he's like, wait a minute, I'm winning everything. Okay, you could trade his opponent's pieces without trading his own. Okay, so that was a fine game, and the lecture, well, it should be over, but we'll do one more. Okay, and now this is also from the same tournament, and in fact, I was at this tournament. I've been to the last 4 World's Youth and or Cadets, maybe 5. This was in Durban, South Africa. Right, Arjun? Okay, and Durban, South Africa is well known for what? That's right, nothing. Very good. What's that? Who? Apartheid? Durban, South? No, yeah, come on. Okay, Arjun never even heard of that. What do you, I believe you. I don't believe him. Okay, Durban is the city in the world with the most people of Indian descent that's not in India. Over 1 million. Okay, so I'm not sure why that's important, but it is. Okay, and then like after we left from Durban, then there was a lot of bad stuff happening there. Okay, so we got there at the right time. Okay, so Arthur Guo's white, and I like this game because he plays very suspiciously. I like that. Usually Arthur plays as boring as possible. Then when his opponent falls asleep, he turns the clock, takes some pieces off, and the guy wakes up and he's like, I'm in ruins over here. Okay, but here Arthur tricked his opponent. His opponent played bishop b4, pinning the knight, and the computer and slightly prefers black. See, he cut all that other stuff out. They don't know I said white. Okay. Anyway, the reason it prefers black is black's pieces are all great, pinning the knight on c3, bishop on b7. However, white has a very important trump in this position. Okay, and it's not Melania. Okay, it's attacking the black king. Okay, and the attack doesn't work if you're playing a supercomputer, but this is the world under 8, so it's guaranteed to work. Okay, so white played the most aggressive move every move, and black failed to defend properly. We have an 8-year-old raising his hand. You, unknown student. Bishop takes h7 is check, but you missed king takes h7. That's unfortunate. Then I would move my king. G8. Wow, your queen went from d2 to h5. You're better than I am. Wow. That's called a Doug Eckert. Yeah, it's true because it is a Doug Eckert. Doug defended that way once. He moved his queen illegally and he won. Yeah. That's not a joke, that happened. Okay, it's the only game I've ever seen Doug win. So, all right. Now, Arthur Guo did what you did, but he did something legal. That's why he's the top 10-year-old in the country. He played knight g5 with obvious threats, taking on h7. And black played h6, bishop h7 check. Black played the best move. They still don't know. Wow. I like the way Arjun raises his hand. Okay, king h8. Okay, now white's play is very suspicious and doesn't work against a strong grandmaster or a computer, but again, this is the world under 8, so he got a good chance. He played knight f7 check. Now, if king takes h7, the queen is hanging. Now, I know Arthur pretty well. He doesn't play like this. This is when he was young and foolish. 8. Now he's 10, double digits. Now he plays solid. Candy doesn't taste good to him anymore. Double digits. Been married and divorced twice. Since this game. Yeah. Okay, one of his kids is in college. Man, the other one, we won't talk about him. What a disappointment. Okay, so obviously obviously rook takes f7, and now the most aggressive, scary move of all time, queen h6. Unfortunately, it doesn't work. Okay, but black actually has to play a good move, and he's not going to do that. Okay, and you guys are like, yeah, we know what that's like. Okay, so white's threatening, bishop everywhere winning. Bishop g6, bishop e4, bishop f5, everything wins. Okay, and also winning would be queen h5, safe. Okay, and so black has to unpin his g-pawn, but he did so in the wrong way. And in fact, I was giving a lesson today to one of my students, and I kept telling him, chess players are really bad at retreating. They don't like to retreat. That's why MVL is so good, because he's French. All right. Why are you laughing? You didn't get that. All right. Arjun. What? Rook f6 is what was played. That's the mistake. That loses the game. Knight f6, which is a retreat, that wins the game. After knight f6, the computer says black is winning. Not totally winning, but a little winning. Okay, like +2, something like that. After rook f6, not only is black losing, but white has to play perfect every move to win, and he did, which isn't really fair. Playing in the under 8, you shouldn't play perfect every move. That's called the director or something. Okay, and he played rook f6. Okay, stopping all of white's threats, except it didn't stop all of white's threats. Now, of course, white's playing for checkmate. That's why he sacrificed a piece and has all his pieces near black's king. When you watch, let's say, Carlsen Karyakin, and you fall asleep because it's so boring, and then you wake up, it's even more boring, right? And then you're like, why am I watching this? Instead, go to the under 8 tournament and watch those games. If you fall asleep for a second and you wake up, there's like a 7-queen difference. So you gotta focus on the under 8 games. Okay, and white played the only winning move, which I'm sure you'll all find. Very good. Somehow the highest rated player knows the answer. Queen h5. And now the computer says white's winning. Of course, if somebody like Ken West was black, he would play rook h6. After queen h6, I can't believe he did it again to me. Okay, man, that actually would happen too. Right, Arjun? Yeah, that would happen. You know that would happen, right? You know Ken West would play rook h6 here. He definitely would. I guarantee it. He's coming to my wedding tomorrow, so I'll have to explain that to him. Okay, so black played knight f4, attacking the white queen. A lot of you would play discovered check, but then knight takes queen would solve that problem. So he took the knight, he played rook h6, Ken West style. Okay, bishop h6, king takes h7, and white only has one winning move, but it's pretty obvious. Bishop to g5 check, and black loses his queen. And actually, after the move queen h6, white played perfect every move, which isn't fair. And now, black had a nice game, but now it looks like black didn't defend his king too well. So even when the attack doesn't work in theory, it works in practice, because
they're under 8.
Arjun. You guys are telling the wrong jokes. Didn't you get the script I sent you? No, because theory and practice are the same in theory, but not in practice. Okay, yeah, try to remember, yeah. All right, I said theory and practice. You don't know that one. You come to all my lectures. Man, you take notes. It's in your notes somewhere. Okay, in theory it's in his notes, but not in practice. All right, so Arthur wins, hooray, and his opponent cries. And I'm not kidding about that either. Yeah, at the World Youth and World Cadet, the only question I ask my students is, did your opponent cry? 50-50. And what was my favorite answer? Who remembers previous lectures? What was my favorite answer when I asked that? You. Yes. That's just the usual answer. I had a much better answer than that. The game was about 30 moves, and my student said, my opponent started crying on move 12 and did it through the rest of the game. And I was like, and what's funny was, it was the last round. So I was thinking, the kid cried for 11 rounds? What? After round 11, you're like, all right, I won't cry anymore. Like, I've already lost 6 games. Hey, he cried for the whole game. Wow. Okay, I gave him an extra treat. That was good. Okay. Because making your opponent cry, that's what chess is all about. Okay, now here's another game where Arthur got pretty aggressive, as you can see. White's position's pretty strong. Okay, so black played the obvious bishop takes d3. Now, unfortunately for black, the bishop, which looks like an aggressive bishop, is actually a defensive bishop. We need to defend g6. Otherwise, white will play queen g6. So we don't have time for moves like bishop takes c4. Okay, and Arthur noticed that and played rook f3 and said, we want to take my knight? Queen g6 is a little risky. He's like, no, I don't think so. Let's save our bishop. Okay, now the favorite move of Matt Larson and Patrick Wolf, giving the answer away. White played. I gave the answer away. See, hold on, I'm getting text from Matt Larson and Patrick Wolf. Hey, they're right. You. That's the favorite move of Matt Larson? No, that's rook takes f5. Who? No, that's Matt Larson. It's the only move he ever plays every game. You. Yeah, Matt Larson likes g4. Here g4 is good because the bishop can't defend g6. However, the bishop should defend g6. Like it really should. Okay, so instead of resigning, black played rook a7. And he's like, all right, I'll sack a piece, but my rook will come defend. And what did Emanuel Lasker say? I think Arjun was there when he said it. He said, when you see a good move, look for a better one. Okay, and there's a picture of Lasker, I think, right there somewhere. Yeah, there he is, right there. Okay, and taking the bishop is winning, but he played a better move, which is strange for an 8-year-old. Usually like, oh, g4 attacking the bishop, he didn't move it, and they start slobbering on the board, and you got to clean that up, right? Instead, white played a move suggested earlier by the class. Rook h3. Man, the truth hurts. Yeah, now you can't move your bishop off g6 or stop queen h8 mate. Man, tough to be black here. If you ever have the black pieces, don't let your opponent have a pawn here the whole game, unless you're playing me. Then, okay. All right, and again, they don't resign because it's the under 8, so we get to see some funny finishes. Okay, bishop takes e6. And now, I showed this position to Anish Giri, and he gave a perpetual. He was like, oh boy, draw. He was really happy. Right, Arjun? Right. All right, Arjun said right. That was a good answer. Okay, now I'm just kidding, Anish. I'm not kidding. Okay, and instead of the draw that Anish found, he played checkmate. Usually you don't see checkmate because, well, Anish never won a game, so never seen checkmate. And also people usually resign, but not on the under 8. Then, we see checkmate. So that really wasn't fair because my engine said Arthur played perfect every move. When you're playing in the world under 8, your opponent shouldn't play any good moves. Okay? And I'll tell you a funny story about American parents, and probably parents all over the world, but Americans for sure, because I'm the American coach. American parents that take their kids to the World Championship, they expect their kids to win. Okay? That's how Trump got elected. Their expectations are very suspicious. Okay? And they're like, why didn't my kid win the World Championship? And I'm like, your kid's like the 4th best player on your block. How's he going to win the World Championship? Okay, so when the kids do win the World Championship, which does happen, we're all very impressed. The parents aren't. They're like, of course my kid won. Okay, and when they don't win, the parents get really mad. Why did my kid not get 11 out of 11? And I'm like, your kid's not from Vietnam. That was the right answer. At one of the world youths in the under 10, the kid got 11 out of 11. That kid won. Yeah, he made Fisher look bad. Yeah. Okay, so Arthur Guo, who's a boring positional player, when he was 8, he was a crazy, wild attacking player, and that seemed to work well for him. Because sometimes he played perfectly and he won, and sometimes he wasn't winning because opponents couldn't defend. Very suspicious. Works in poker too. Okay, this poker game is not so efficient yet. All right, now this is a more recent game. This game was played 2 months ago in the World Cadet that I was at in Georgia, and Arthur Guo's from Georgia. Right, Arjun? Yeah, but it's a different Georgia. Yeah, okay, you're less confused. It used to be there was one Soviet Georgia, but soon there'll be 2. Okay, and he won't delete that joke because he won't get it. So yeah. Okay, so here, his opponent's attacking him. Okay, ridiculous. But his opponent didn't realize something. His opponent didn't realize that his rating was 1400. So Arthur Guo was not impressed. Okay, maybe Mike Kummer would be impressed. That's about it. And white played queen g4 with obvious threats. Now, everybody who knows me knows that I espouse queen and bishop against queen and knight, and then everybody else is like queen and knight, and they move their arms like this. They're like Donkey Kong. Okay, and yeah, that knight's great on d2. Ooh, but the bishop on d5. Okay, and as you all suspect, the game ended very shortly in checkmate. Black checkmated white. Right, Arjun? It's right, so say yeah. Okay, so queen g7 is the threat, and so black played g6, and now queen g7 is not the threat. Okay, and then we played knight e4. Now most people would immediately play f5, forking the queen and knight. We call that doing a Ken West. And then white plays queen g6 check, and you're like, oh yeah, didn't see that. Okay, now in this position, black has a big positional advantage. White has this terrible pawn on c2, and if the pawn moves, black's going to take it. And the pawn's not defended, and white has no threat, so black played rook c8. And white was like, how do I defend that pawn? Rook c1 looks pretty stupid. Rook f2 looks pretty stupid. My back rank is empty. And my opponent might eventually play f5. So let's stop everything. No f5, no attacking c2. And f5 was played. You have to retreat to f2. If you go to d2, you don't defend your c pawn. Man, white had a nice attack. Then he put all his pieces back. Queen c7, attacking not only c2, but f4. Can't defend them both. So he defended one of them twice. And now, white played the winning attack. Okay, here white can resign. White's down material. His a2 pawn is hanging. His knight on h3 is trapped. His king's in the corner. His rooks are terrible. But instead, he played knight g5 check, the winning sacrifice, winning for black. And Arthur took it, and he checked, king g8. And now, white played the move that allowed imminent mate, queen e5, threatening rook h8 check, queen h8 check, and then white realized he just made a big mistake. Although resigning would have been quicker. And actually, he resigned before his opponent moved. And his move would have been queen g2 mate. And as the kids in my kids' class would say, forking the rooks. Yeah. I would be like, now the king is attacked, and they would say, and the rook. Another kid would say, and the other rook. And then another kid would say, and the pawn on b2. Yeah. And then some other kid would say the pawn on h2. Yeah. That would all happen too. Even at home, they're like, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Okay? Yeah. Okay, so instead of allowing queen g2 mate, white instantly resigned. Okay? Man, chess is tough. If it's white's move, white has a good attack. Probably still losing. Yeah, I think if it's white's move, he's still losing. I don't see a mate. The king runs out. Yeah. But yeah, okay, mate and one. So that attack didn't work as well as Arthur's attacks. Okay, and last and not least, this was also played, and this was in the last tournament. This was very late in the tournament. This was one of the last rounds. And this was a game where Arthur got really lucky. So he had a big advantage, and he threw it all away. Then he won again with tricks because, Arjun? Yeah. So after queen takes c8, the computer says it's about equal. It prefers white a little bit. Okay? And now, this is very important, and you actually might learn something, and this is a chance for you to write. When you have opposite colored bishops, you want to be the one attacking, and in this position, it's not clear who's attacking. It looks like black's king is safer than white's. Black has all of his pawns in front of his king. White's moved all of the pawns in front of his king. His king could get exposed. You could imagine black playing queen h3 or queen h1, and white's king would get in a lot of trouble. So Arthur pulled out all the stops to attack black's king. He played h6. The computer is not impressed, but he's not playing a computer. Okay? And if you're black here, you're like, what do I do about that? The computer plays the cold-blooded, what's the cold-blooded move? What's that? Yeah, you got to take stuff if you're cold-blooded. Okay? I also got the right answer when I gave this lecture many years ago from Rick James. I was like, what's the right move? And he raised his hand. And I said, you. And he said, cold-blooded. And I was like, exactly. Right, Arjun? Okay, good. All right, so g takes h6 is equal. Black played g6. Now that pawn's still on h6. If you had taken it, then it wouldn't be there. Okay, and here, Arthur missed a very good continuation, and I don't blame him. Okay, in fact, some would say he missed an explosive continuation. You, c4. Did you say that too? Yeah, c4. He played bishop d4, very suspicious. Okay, c4 is very interesting. The idea is, if you take it with the queen, I play rook c3 and rook c8 check, and then you're not very happy. So you take it with the bishop, then you lose your rook on d7. So the obvious move is Arjun. Bishop c6. And now, it seems like this queen was on the open c file, and we closed up that c file pretty good. So now we play queen c3, threatening queen here mate. Okay, and the computer likes white. Okay, it's not dead loss, but it's bad. Okay, instead, he played the move bishop to d4 because he played for tricks, and his opponent fell for those tricks. His opponent played bishop e4, which doesn't lose, but he's on the road to losing. Okay, it's an interesting road. A lot of 8-year-olds go on that road. Okay, but here his opponent's 10, so that's crazy. Also, it says world under 12, and it was definitely under 10, definitely. Okay, so, and who won the world under 10? Let's call on Arjun. No, that was the girls under 10. It's the only kid I ever lecture about ever. You, Makoveyev, there you go. Okay, and in fact, Arthur Guo drew Makoveyev in this tournament. All right, so now your rook is attacked, so you should move it away. Haha, you fell for that. Okay, instead, Arthur tried to figure out a way to get his queen to g7. He thought that would be a better idea. So what did he do? Arjun, he moved his queen somewhere, e3, e2, nobody knows. Okay, e2. Queen e3 is the same. And now, black should have been suspicious about taking the rook since he gets mated. So when your opponent sacrifices or blunders or loses an exchange on purpose, you should be like, wait a minute. That rook had a lot of squares to go to, and he intentionally didn't move it away, so let's figure this out. He didn't do a good job of figuring it out. And the reason was, he thought after bishop takes, which is the losing move, he could defend his bishop with something like f5, and the computer says white's slightly better. Queen e5, he thought he would play the move that I say never play. f6. In fact, you better play f6. If you play king f8, I'll play queen h8 and take the queen on c8. And I think in his mind he had a mental block that after f6, white would play queen f6, which makes sense. And after queen f6, black is okay, because g7 is protected by the rook. The only threat is queen h8, but black can just move his queen somewhere. And after f6, queen f6, white is not winning. In fact, I think black's winning after queen f8. So f6, queen f6, which was not played. I think queen f8's good. Okay, then queen h8, king f7, and okay, black's up a rook, so white better do something fast. And maybe there's other good moves for black. And I think that's what he analyzed. f6, queen f6, I'm okay. But f6 not only hangs the f pawn, what else does it hang? The e pawn. So he took that. That's much more annoying. Obviously, rook f7 loses the queen. Queen takes queen. King h8's not very good because of bishop f6 check. That's not good. Yeah. Okay, so he realized, oh, queen e6, oops. And you shouldn't miss a capture, and you shouldn't miss a check. You shouldn't miss both. It's both. King f8's the only move. He resigned instead. Queen f6, and now we're going to win your queen. It doesn't matter what you do, unless you want to get mated somehow. Is there a way to get mated? You guys get mated a lot. Is there a way for black to get mated? I don't see way, but there must be. But okay, every other way allows queen h8 and queen takes queen. So actually, bishop takes rook just lost immediately. And since his opponent was 400 points higher rated and obviously intentionally gave his rook away, you should be like, But people don't do that. They're like, a rook. Take the rook. And they took the rook. And then after here, he still thought he was doing well, but it was queen e6. Actually, he thought he was doing good until he saw the Weird Al video. Then he realized he was doing well. Was he doing well? No. Terrible. No. Okay. And obviously, instead of the move f6, what should black have played? Bishop f1. Always play bishop f1. If I was white and my opponent played bishop f1, that move might kill me. That's his only way of winning. f6 I would expect, but not bishop f1. Right, Arjun? Right. No, I don't think that one was right. I think that one was wrong. Okay, so that's Arthur Guo winning lots of games before the age of 11. Who else in this room would do that? Oh yeah, Arjun, right? And so when Arjun gets to be a high-rated player, like tomorrow, right? Then we'll do a lecture on your games, and you can actually be here. Who was the last person in this chess club who was here, and I did a lecture on them? Rochelle Wu. She was here about a week ago. Yeah. And I'll tell you guys a funny story, because the video went up today, or as far as you guys know, 2 weeks ago. But for you guys, it was today. I made a video, Rochelle Wu, world champion. She got something from the state Congress, Senate of Alabama, saying she's great. And when she got here, she said, oh yeah, I played in Kentucky last week. I lost to an 1800 and 1500. So the truth hurts. Then her next couple of tournaments, she beat experts and masters. So if you want to play Rochelle Wu, I recommend being 1500. So if some of you gain 1300 rating points, you're all set. All right, some of you got that. You.
I put her in round 1.
And you showed her who the boss was. Her, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was some kind of night orf, right? Yeah, then you got like smushed. Yeah, well, she's older than you. Yeah. All right, that was chess in the 21st century, and soon it'll be the 22nd century, then you'll give the lectures, right? Yeah, maybe. You think I'm gonna give lectures? No. Maybe my head in a jar if it's like Futurama.